and you might have these stats, but our county has a total of 2 million acres, approximately. And most recently, the last day of Clinton's service to the county, he used his magic wand to designate 250,000 acres a national monument.
Yeah,
so there's 10% of our county landmass right then and there. And immediately, in the management plan that came along with that designation, we were supposed to be able to continue cattle grazing. This is primarily an agricultural county, and hunting and public access and so forth. But the reality was, as soon as it was designated a national monument, the grazers were really pretty much taken off by the tactics such as you can bring your cows on for 10 days and take them off and bring them back for 4 more days and take them off. Those kinds of tactics. In other words, we're going to designate how you're going to utilize your grazing permits, and they weren't practical. So by virtue of that, there went grazing, and then a lot of the roads and things were closed down and access to a lot of that monument. So we also have a lot of national forests in our county that has been designated wilderness area. So there we go again. But I don't think that our economy is based on any of our public lands not here. We just don't have the timber and we don't have the mining really. We've kind of shifted, and we were, before all this happened really, we shifted to a economy that was based on agriculture production on the private lands, and then the tourism that brought. And because our commodity of the decade is the wine grapes, that goes hand in hand with tourism. So we would be doing fine. I think, and you all might have some experience with this, we're under assault, I think, more by our state regulation than our federal. And if there was a way to, of course, having worked for our state senator, I understand that very often the staff that are preparing regulation at the county and city level, they tell the electeds, well, this sounds a little rough, but we've got to do it because the feds are making us. So there is that kind of connection. The federal government, we're using the Clean Water Act to hammer you with these state or regional water regulations that are going to shut down your operation on private lands, that kind of thing. So we can connect the dots that way, but I wonder if there's a possibility of the county using the same kind of tactic to defend themselves against state regulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, half of our households depend in some way on some kind of public employment in this county.
Like prisons, are you talking?
Prisons,
like
we have a state hospital.
Okay.
In this county, we have a state hospital, a state university, and a state prison.
Oftentimes what's happened is, and you hit on it, is these sometimes newly founded state agencies, again, that no one ever voted for, these are bureaucrats that are appointed. They're only appointed and created to fulfill a mission. They're just an extension of a federal agency. So, but it looks good because it's not the Fed coming in. It's Sacramento coming in. See, so you can't blame the Fed, but typically they're enacting with that carrot on the stick, okay? They're willing to cut their neighbor's throat to get that grant so that they can have a job with state benefits, okay? That's all it comes down to. And then assess penalties on down to the lower levels, the counties and cities. The only thing that's there's like 2 or 3 things to fix California. One is toss out like 99.9% of the people in Sacramento. I'm just being honest. It's like an impossible task, but that's what it's going to take. Okay? The scenario of half of it falling off into the ocean might drastically make people rethink out here. But my own mother has, her engineering firm it's all but gone, okay, in the San Joaquin Valley, okay, because there is no building, there is no production. Farmers can't put in new treatment ponds because they had them, like the olives processing, etc., because there's no revenue coming in. When they attack waterways and the ability to use water, like you said, maybe it's for the wines or the avocados, point blank, these old avocado trees, they still need water. They're not going to produce good avocados. When they attack that, always go back to the core fundamentals. Did San Luis Obispo County, we'll pick because we're standing here, did they cede themselves to the federal government? Probably not, okay? I've never found a map where they said, yeah, federal government, you can own us as an enclave. It's going to take the local level, the smallest unit, the most powerful unit of government in a republic, to just draw the line in the sand and say point blank, we're not enforcing it. You think they didn't try it on us? They did. They said, well, travel management, that's a federal rule. You have to enforce it. And the sheriff said, no, actually, we don't have to do anything. I didn't write it. My board didn't pass it. The residents didn't vote on it. We're not enforcing nothing. It doesn't apply here. Plain and simple. And when they didn't buy it, we passed a resolution just to show them. Because we tried just the verbal. But you've got to exhaust your administrative remedies. Okay? So the resolution was an administrative remedy. We declared an emergency first. We said the conditions you have allowed to prevail in our backyard has caused us to be in a catastrophic state, economically, environmentally, etc. Crime. And here's what we're going to do about it. This one here, everything's open or you're going to get arrested and pay for a cleanup. And B, we're going to work and you can be a partner if it involves your land. Or you can stay out of the way, because if you get in the way, you'll be arrested. It's pretty simple. I mean, it sounds rather crude and simple, but it is. It's just a basic tenet. And as long as we keep wanting to play tiptoe with every agency that comes down the pike, and a county or city doesn't want to just draw the line. I mean, when is enough enough? And the residents, they're just going to keep bulldozing ahead.
Well, do you think that when we're talking jurisdiction, that the local
County government can use the same kind of jurisdiction
Health, safety, and welfare you can.
With the state agencies?
Health, safety, and welfare. You're charged with it as an elected officer.
So we can use this really the same tactic and say, as a county, use Sacramento or endangering our citizens in this county, and we're not going to take it anymore.
You wouldn't use jurisdiction in a chart because you're a political subdivision of the state, but you are, as elected officers, a supervisor or a chairman of the board of supervisors or the sheriff. You are mandated to uphold and protect that health, safety, and welfare. So now you're not going to go find a magic chart from some state agency that shows what they own and a jurisdictional status. That doesn't come in between state and county. It's health, safety, welfare.
And I'm thinking more along the lines of,
I'm thinking more along the lines of our agricultural production here is under threat right now because of the state or the regional water quality board, which is an arm of the state, saying you can't have runoff. First of all, you have to have a permit.
Runoff is a toxic waste.
You have to have a permit from them to be able to irrigate a commercial commodity. So if you sell one apple, you have to have a permit to water the apple tree. And then to get that permit, you have to follow in other words, you have to have tested. You can't have runoff. And then the standards that they've created are cleaner than bottled water. I mean, they're not natural standards. They're impossible at times to comply with. So they're asking for compliance that a lot of agricultures can't comply with, and it would destroy the economy, number one. And I suppose a person could go down a long list of we can't stop this sediment because you, State Fish and Game, won't let us move that tree that just fell into the creek and has rerouted the whole creek and taken a whole bunch of dirt with it. That kind of stuff. But it's a state agency coming in and mandating how we have to manage our private lands. That's going to destroy the economy here in this county, potentially. And
well, ultimately, still, though, it doesn't negate the core of it. The Board of Supervisors, commissioners, depending on what state you're in, and the sheriffs are ultimately the ones that, through the election process, are mandated to defend the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. And that includes economic. If a state agency is coming in, if you think that can't be done, I'll pick on my state again. I know, I saw you. You get your chance, just a second. I saw you out of the corner of my eye. Let me see. Budget period, January to March of 2011. The only time we have legislature in Arizona. Then they're sent home. Yeah, I love it. Because now they're back down the street for the bulk of the year. But they had cut certain parts of the budget to be the first state in the union with the balanced budget and carry that like, oh, we beat everybody. But they were going to destroy county budgets by doing that because of the number of unfunded mandates. So the League of Town and Cities banded together. Okay, now that's one entity, and I know you've got one out here. Then the County State Association, there's 15 counties in Arizona. We only got 15, but they're huge, banded together. So the two prospective organizations sent a notice of intent to sue to the governor's office. If you sign that budget, we're going to sue the state of Arizona because you're going to destroy our ability to protect health, safety, and welfare. We won't be able to protect the children. We won't be able to educate them. We won't even be able to give them school lunches. We won't have enough cops on the ground because of the number of unfunded mandates and regulations you're shoving down here. The governor doesn't need that, and no governor needs that. So she sent it back to the House and Senate and said, figure it out, I'm not signing it. And we got it figured out.
We have a question here and then I'll...
I just want to make a quick clarification. You mentioned if you don't like it, then we have to change Sacramento. I was in Sacramento years ago. But I do want to do a reality check with everybody here. That sounds good, everybody applauds. But as you well know, redistricting, reapportionment is determining the percentage of parties and so on. Right now, the vast majority of districts in the Assembly and Senate are rigged so that we get very, very liberal leftist people. Now, the wonderful senator that Debbie worked for didn't run because I think, what, 17% more of the opposing party would be registered in the district, and I'm telling you, we are getting a leftist socialist from, is he Santa Cruz? Santa Cruz, coming Senator, it's going to be Senator Monty, I think, and he's not good. So this is the thing, if people don't understand about reapportionment, you just can't move these people out because the odds are against you the way they have it rigged up with reapportionment.
No, there's no doubt in my mind. It's called gerrymandering. It's been going on all over. Our county was, we have come under, Arizona, you've seen. I mean, a president sued a state. Come on. And then we had already said, well, we can make weapons at home, and as long as you're not exporting, which is true. Because the ATF, the Department of Treasury, has no jurisdiction. If it's not interstate, it is legal. And we're doing it, okay, in Arizona. And then Montana and Wyoming copied, and then Idaho. But everything we do comes under attack. And a little fire of 30,000 acres got the full effect of every federal agency relief you could imagine. And we have 3 million acres burned just last year alone, and there was never a state of emergency even declared out of the White House. So even if we wanted help from FEMA or anybody, you couldn't get it because without his declaration. So it's that retaliatory attack. But the simple fact is at the local level, just draw the line. And I know you've got enough cities and towns that I truly believe, with my relatives are all over, Grass Valley, Auburn, Southern California, Porterville, Tulare, Visalia, Fresno, all relatives, and I do talk to them occasionally. Do like maybe copy Arizona. When our own state legislature was going to screw us, fine, we're just going to sue our own state. And the League of Cities and Towns band together, and the League of Counties. Yes, sir. I know you about shook your arm off over there.
That's what I get for sitting forward. Mike Jackson here. First, thank you for this information. A couple of two more questions. In the South County, they're trying to stop all the recreational vehicle traffic on the beach, which would be a huge impact on the economy. Is that something that can be addressed through health and safety? Because there won't be enough funds to address the needed services because they're impacting the income. And also, the Board of Supervisors continues to put their thumb on us, just like they just recently did, said, you can't have any more lot splits even though your property is zoned for it, because we feel that there's a water issue, which impacts all the civil engineers, all the builders, it just goes on down the line. And they continue to do this. Is that a way to address this?
Yeah, I would ask first. I would want proof of the water issue. Ask them for proof.
We did.
And did they have it?
There's another report, modeling report, still not coming out until the first of the year, and they would not wait for that modeling report. They passed it anyway.
So, I mean, that's the point you're getting at. I mean, there's that or Plan B. Plan B, I've been there and done that. That's a little messy.
One of
So,
the things that happen with your dust, you know.
dust particulates
you know,
monoxide.
One of the things that was causing your dust, which they were using as the excuse to remove your vehicles, was the removal of water from the valley. The valley had dust storms. You're right at a place where the hills go low, and the dust was coming right over from there into your area, and they were blaming you guys for the particulate. The same thing happened down in Fresno. They were going to fine Fresno $23 million for having particulate in the air. We suggested that they sue the EPA because by turning off the water to the valley, they had caused the particulate. Take a look at this and keep urging them to take a look at when the wind is blowing and where it's blowing from before they take out the vehicles.
What I would do is just your county sheriff and board of supervisors is going to have to approach that issue. Now, I showed you numbers earlier about the travel management rule and its effects. When I had to present to the Utah's Association of Counties yearly conference on what we did, because they're copying us like crazy up there, getting all geared up to do it, or already starting. They wanted those numbers. Their cumulative damage from one action, the travel management plan, so I'm just giving you vehicle to vehicle, would have been close to $5 billion because they have all that Moab and all those Jeeps and the jobs that are surrounding it. 80,000 jobs are tied to recreational use of vehicles in Utah. So I think your county, and it might take a user group to do this because they're not going to do it on their own. You're going to have to shove it down their throat. But I have yet to find a state and a university yet that doesn't have comprehensive reports on the cumulative effects, jobs and money that's contributed to every economy, county by county, for outdoor recreation. Utah's, the meeting was in Ogden, and 250 legislators in this room, and they didn't know that an hour away, the State University in Salt Lake City issued the report I was using. It was 4 months old. It's this year. That's all. And when they saw it was their hometown school, 80,000 plus jobs, $5 billion in economy, then that got them off their butt. That was what it took. And I think you're going to have to do that. Forget the particulate. That's because we already know that's a sham. Hit them in the pocketbook. Look, you're already broke. The schools are suffering. The police are suffering. The seniors are suffering. Whatever's suffering. And it's going to be this big of a decrease. And you can get those through like your extension services, the Farm Services Agency of the USDA, your rangeland management, biology departments at universities. They'll have those reports as well, as far as vehicles on the dunes. I just twist it right back around on them. I mean, unfortunately, you guys are in a real sticky situation here. Because you've got a Fed and a state coming after you. Now, we had the state as well, but the quick fix to it was that banding together 2 years ago over that budget issue. And just saying, fine, everything you do that affects us anymore, we're suing you. The state of Arizona. So Tom Horn, our Attorney General, said, well, they got a valid case, and we'll probably lose. And the governor had to rethink things. She's allowed to reject in Arizona and send the budget back. And she sent it back 5 times until it was fixed so that we weren't suing as cities. You're just going to have to do that, unfortunately, or go to Plan B. Yes, ma'am.
The ordinance that was...
Is it on? Yeah. Oh, the ordinance that was just mentioned, the Paso Robles groundwater ordinance, there, where they are not allowing any subdivisions or lot splits, the lawsuit needs to be filed before the ordinance takes place and ask that the ordinance be stayed because the Board of Supervisors is proceeding without an EIR. But if the ordinance goes into play, then they will require an EIR to have it removed. So even if when they would take a second vote, that vote might result in the Board of Supervisors wanting to rescind it. That's where The EIR would come in, and it could be as much as $500,000. So anyone interested in making sure that that ordinance doesn't proceed, file the lawsuit and ask for a stay, and that would give us in the county some leeway.
Okay, I'd like to move on to some cases that substantiate the issue of federal jurisdiction. Now, realizing that there is a lot of interest in this room in these heartfelt local issues, but when you're telling me that these two board members of a certain portion of the county, I'm not picking on you, I'm going to use yours as an example, are from a liberal area, and you're not going to get them recalled, I can't help you with that one, okay? Because I don't live there in that district, or otherwise I'd go beating on their doors or something. Okay, but I want to give you as much as I can before I leave, and we're almost out of time. So I told, Kurt, oh my God, Kurt, what's wrong? 5,200 miles in 3 weeks is what's wrong. I told Kurt just right now that I'll give him this whole document that he can post on your site. And it's the one that we filed in the county clerk's office. Even though it's the county, you still want it on public record. Because we also published it in the legal newspaper. Every county has a designated paper for legal postings in America. And we also published this paper here in the newspaper, the 3 required times, et cetera, following all the rules of civil procedure. So all the agencies were notified. And what it is, it's a white paper myself and many the gentlemen in my institute put together. And our institute has some pretty decent pool. We proved our data was what was used in the Oklahoma City bombing hearings and for the congressional review on that, because it was our institute who found some complacency in the research and the investigations afterwards of federal agents as well as in Waco. So we've got some people that are pretty good experts and PhDs in all these obscure fields. We put this paper together, and it's plumb full of extractions of court cases with the court citation and then the quotes. But you can see over and over again, what then is the extent of jurisdiction which a state possesses? We answer without hesitation. The jurisdiction of a state is coextensive with its territory, coextensive with its legislative power. And this paper goes on and on and on. It talks about a lot of those milk cases in the Central Valley of California, taxing versus price subsidies versus who owns what piece of land. It talks about a ton of the bases. And I extracted this from all the circuit courts when we put this so that other counties, because it was copied by some legislators that are educated in the Atlas and Battle Creek area where the auto industry used to be booming in Michigan, they had me come back and teach a week-long course to staff. There were state legislators, county and city managers, etc. there. So we extracted all these cases, even Steven, throughout all the circuit courts. So when they're showing their local officials, they wouldn't be, well, that's the 9th, it doesn't apply to us, which would be wrong anyway, but that way it's even Steven. All the circuit courts and Supreme Court cases are all here. And it goes over the Supreme Court decisions. And then one other one I'll pass along to you so you know what you're getting, because we are running out of time, unfortunately. Here's a folder for Kirk I've developed. As the morning went on, I was adding stuff. When I was grabbing my laptop based on what people were bringing up, I have this one we created a few years ago for a class, and all these are hyperlinked, see? So that'll be pretty easy for people. So if you don't believe what I told you, and you shouldn't, go research it. I showed you the newspaper articles. Maybe I made all that up. So go to Cronkite News and search for Apache County. Go to the Forest Business Weekly, search for Apache County. Go to the County Register if you want, get the jurisdiction documents or the resolutions. So on these court cases, same thing. Maybe you don't believe my court citation and the extract from the synopsis. Well, here it's hyperlinked. Okay? Go read it yourself. And not because you're mean people and don't believe me. I expect you to do research. You should. Because if I listen to what these agencies told me when I'm taking them on in their rooms, then we would just lose. Because it's always, well, you can't do that because we said so. and we've got this behind us. And they're often fond in quoting code and statute, and U.S. code is, predominantly, and it's not even the correct one. They babble off USC, blah, 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 and it's a whole different agency. But they just figure if they babble enough at you quick enough that you'll scare and buckle. When we took this on high, our first mid-level, which would be Region 3 headquarters in Albuquerque, so over 5 states, forestry services. So this is big. Well, all us rednecks, and this, like I say, we got one stoplight, no mail delivery, okay, in a county of predominantly Indian tribes. So the Navajos unanimously signed on with us as supervisors, let alone Navajo Nation and Apaches, etc. Me and the manager and the chairman of the board go to this regional office, and they have these huge glass meeting rooms, like corporate headquarters. When you go to these, I've been to almost all of them throughout the U.S. And my chairman of the board is a career attorney as well. So he goes, "Who's all those people in there not wearing uniforms?" I said, "Well, there's 2 ways to tell. When you walk in right now, because I didn't know either, if they tell you, 'My name's Doyel Shamley, I'm the silviculturist,' that's typical agency. If they only tell you a first name and look at you, they're a DOJ attorney." And they had 7 of them in there to try to intimidate us. So here's us 3 rednecks, here's this room, and then they do all the typical psyop, like they pulled their chairs around us. And that's just so you know they're sitting over here and over here. It's all intimidation. We just told, my county attorney never let him know he was an attorney. And my commissioner supervisor, chairman of the board, never let him know he was an attorney. And we told every lawyer joke we could before the meeting started, and had them so unsettled that they couldn't think the rest of the meeting. And then when it was all said and done is when they finally told them what they did for a trade, our guys. But the simple fact is once they heard the story, saw the very citations I showed you earlier, every subsequent meeting, there's been no DOJ attorneys ever again. Never again in the meeting. It's now the silviculturist, the fire and fuels team, it's the BLM range manager, it's the Fish and Wildlife for water. The attorneys are not in the room anymore. And in fact, they're like, "Well, do you want to learn how to cut in a spotted owl area? I'll bring up the staff." Because there's good Americans in these places left.